if I don't have a coach, I'm going to get to the office. I'm going to do the stuff that I know works. But having that coach and that extra layer of accountability and the responsibility upon myself to go out and make it happen, it just, for me, that was what was able to take me to that next level.
What's up, everybody? It's Joe Herrera coming to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada on the TLA, the Team Leader Academy podcast. Stoked to be joined by my buddy Sean Nealon from Denver, Colorado. Shawn, welcome. Thanks for hopping on with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
So
stoked to be talking to you.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your origin story. Like, who are you? Where are you from? How'd you get into real estate? Kind of, 30,000 foot view of Shawn and his career.
You got it. So I grew up here in Denver, Colorado, one of the suburbs here. Grew up in a good home. I think one of the things that I saw from a really young age was just, my dad, he was up early every morning. And all the years that I lived over with my parents, I never saw him miss a day of work. So work ethic was just kind of instilled in me at a really young age. And, my family, none of us went the college route. We're all kind of entrepreneurial. So a lot of small businesses. I actually worked for
What did your dad do?
So my dad was third generation at a family business. So my great-grandfather started a company in Denver. They started out as a metal tile distributor, and then they just evolved through the years. So my dad's dad ended up buying the business from him and ran that for several years. Then my dad and my uncle ended up buying him out, and they kind of turned into a full-service kitchen and bathroom remodeling, which was really unique at the time. Everything one-stop shop from design to all the trades. All the employees were employees of the company versus subcontractors. So that was a nice niche, and it's still operational today. I worked there for 5 years. I went to a semester of college before I dropped out. So I at least gave it the old college try, right? I came back, started working for my dad. I was there for about 6 years, and I was supposed to be fourth generation to take it over. And I ended up, the rebel that I am, getting out of the business just wasn't for me. Jumped into the credit repair business. I did that for about 5 years. I was a regional sales
during the recession.
It was post-recession. I started that in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. Actually spent a lot of time in Las Vegas. That was one of my main sales territories for a long time. And during that point, I was selling something that wasn't very sexy. I mean, if you ask any mortgage lender, when the credit repair guy cold calls you and asks to set a meeting with your office, immediately you're like, yeah, I'm good. Like, we've heard this song and dance before. So I learned right away during that part of my life, like, number one, grit. You got to have grit to succeed in any business, especially that business was a really tough market in Las Vegas. It was kind of the birthplace of credit repair. I mean,
kind of This is the birthplace of terrible credit is what it is.
You have no idea how many people I would talk to about their credit, and you can hear just like the casino going on in the background.
Yeah.
I think I have an idea of why you're in this situation a little bit.
Yeah.
But I learned right away, grit was something that you had to have a lot of. I'm calling people trying to get in front of them for something that they've been burned on 10, 15 times. And I kind of just took that mindset like, hey, you might say no to me today, but I'm going to keep calling you. I'm going to stop in. I'm going to visit you. Somebody's going to give me a warm introduction. So it might be no today, but I'm not going to stop until I eventually meet face to face and we're doing business. Right. And that's kind of just how I treated my relationships. I was able to be really successful. I was at that company for 5.5 years. I was the top sales rep for 4 of those years, and did it by just really establishing good, solid relationships based on trust and just not just shooting people straight.
Right.
So it was during that time I got a little crafty. The credit repair business was changing, and I was traveling a lot. I managed a 7-state territory at one point. So I was probably taking 100 flights a year from Denver to Boise, Idaho, to Albuquerque, to Las Vegas, to Reno, all parts of California. And I was kind of at the point where I kind of hit a ceiling with my business. And in order to keep growing, it was either think outside the box and create something new, or take on more territory. And I'm certainly not going to take on more territory at that point. So I started creating this online lead funnel for down payment assistance leads. And, a bunch of them would funnel to credit repair, but a bunch of them were actually qualifying for mortgages. And I would send all my best referral mortgage partners out there in Las Vegas. And one of them calls me one day, he goes, "Hey man, a few of these people have bought homes. You should get your real estate license and you can actually get a referral fee. We can refer it to some agents. You can get a referral fee." So then it just clicked for me. I was like, okay.
Right.
10 days later, I had my real estate license in the state of Nevada, did it all online, just crushed it out. Went and booked a flight out there because I had to take my test in person. Passed it first time, got my real estate license, and actually established a small little team over at Keller Williams in Las Vegas, and had a couple agents that I was just referring deals to.
So really quick, I think you pointed something out there that we all as real estate professionals have to be very, very comfortable with, which is the barrier of entry into our industry is like, it's not even a barrier. It's like it's not even a speed bump. It's like a painted line of entry. But the barrier of success is something that we also need to be very comfortable with. Like, yes, our industry is one. Like if you look at being a dentist, the barrier of entry is high, but the barrier of success once you're licensed is relatively low. If you have the license to practice dentistry, it's not rocket science to be able to feed your family. In real estate, our barrier of entry is so low, but the ability to feed your family is a high bar because it's such a highly competitive industry. So like you getting your license in 10 days isn't a great thing for our industry, but now turning it into something successful is.
Absolutely. Well, and another point about that is we're bombarded with these TV shows, these Netflix, these Selling Sunsets, these $1 million listings, right? They make it seem like our job is, you just show up, your phone rings, you're negotiating, and all of a sudden you've got a $100,000 commission coming your way. Definitely not the case. Yeah. So that's what kind of stroked the real estate bug for me. And I knew just a bunch of mortgage lenders here in town in Denver, and a bunch of real estate agents in town. So I kind of learned the business while I was in the credit repair business. So I think when I first got licensed here in Colorado and I decided to make real estate my full-time gig, I had about 9 months worth of savings in my bank account. So if I were going to fall flat on my face, I would at least be able to sustain for 9 months. But one thing I learned right away is coaching is absolutely critical. So I hired a real estate coach the day I got into the industry. And I think, just my background, learning the business while being in the credit repair business, and just all the relationships and conversations I had with people in the business and what their pitfalls were, what was successful for them, combined that with hiring a coach right away. I think I was able to avoid many of those mistakes that a lot of newer agents make. I was really dialed in on my business plan and what I was really good at. And I was lucky to get some really quick success right off the bat.
Who did you hire?
The core training program out of North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
I was with the core. I started in their level 1 program. Most recently, I was in the level 3 program. Really intense. And here's the deal: is like I'm a really disciplined guy. Like whether I have a personal trainer or not, I'm going to get up and go to the gym. Whether I have a nutritionist or a dietitian or not, I'm going to eat right. Like it's just stuff that I do. I've got a really regimented schedule. Same thing with real estate. If I don't have a coach, I'm going to get to the office. I'm going to do the stuff that I know works. But having that coach and that extra layer of accountability and the responsibility upon myself to go out and make it happen, it just, for me, that was what was able to take me to that next level.
So then walk me up until, you've recently had a large team. At your peak, how big was your team and how much production were you guys doing?
Yeah. So our best year, we did 163 transactions. That was last year. We had 18 agents. About 12 of those were producing agents. Right. And just over 100 million, 102 million in production.
Cool. So now looking at yourself, you've obviously through this process learned a lot. Like, what would you say is your greatest strength? Like what somebody said, like, what is Sean Nealon's superpower? What would you say it is?
I think it's that I learned by failing. I fail forward. So I made every single mistake known to man. Like the way I structured my first real estate team, I went against everybody told me, no, don't do it this way. All the smart people, the people who've done it before, the core of my training program told me, no, don't do it this way. I was like, I got this, guys. Yeah. And I had to learn the hard way. We immediately, me and my business partner, within 6 months, we had 25 agents. And we're like, man, we're growing like crazy. 3/4 of them were brand new and never done a transaction. So we quickly turned into the guys like, hey, you checked this box on the contract. Here's how you unscramble one of those turning lockbox things, right?
Yeah.
Just doing all the things that were taking us away from our production and what was actually making us money at the time. So we went through a couple rebirths, a couple shifts, ended up kind of finding our footing, and really found a niche agent that we went after. We built a team based on coaching. So we weren't the traditional team where we provided leads and took high splits. We kept our splits relatively low and just offered a lot of support and training to our agents to get them to grow. And did a really good job of that. We had a lot of agents go from a couple million in production, and then a year, 2 years later, they're in, 8, 10, 15 million in production.
Right.
So
right.
It was a really good niche for us, and it was a lot of fun while we were doing it.
Huh. So looking at your career, what's been your greatest pitfall or weakness? Like, where's somewhere that you've struggled that you're really trying to fix?
Well, I'm always trying to fix something. I mean, self-help work is every day, but for me, it's a lot of mindset. So I'll revert back. So I got my real estate license about 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was at that point I was going through just a really difficult time in my life, and I was really successful. I was one closed deal away from winning Rookie of the Year at my brokerage when I was my first year in real estate. That was awesome. I did 17 transactions my first year. I thought I was on top of the world, but I also had a big substance abuse and alcohol problem at that time, and it was consuming my life. And it's one of those things, like, you get into the industry and, oh shit, there's a happy hour today. Oh, you had a bad day? Like, let's go to the bar and talk about it. Oh, you had best closing of your career? Let's go to the bar. Oh, it's Tuesday. Let's go to the bar. So it actually consumed my life to the point where 4.5 years ago, I was at my rock bottom. I was planning on killing myself. I was on a 6-day drug and alcohol infused bender. I had relapsed several times trying to get clean. I got this timely phone call from a friend. And at that point, I didn't see anything in myself. I didn't believe in myself. So I get this timely phone call from a friend, and I tell him everything that's going on. And mind you, I've been awake for like 6 or 7 days. So I'm like the Walking Dead. I'm a zombie here. Wow. He shows up at my house the next day. I actually flushed all the drugs that I had that night after I got off the phone with him. And he comes over to my house that morning and drives me straight to an AA meeting. And we go, and it's the worst experience of my life. Like, everybody's going around, they're talking about who they are, where they're from, like what their addiction is. And it gets to me and I'm like, pass, right?
Yeah.
Pass. I was like, I'm Shawn and I haven't used drugs in 6 hours. And everybody, like, the room just explodes, clapping for me, patting me on the back. And I was just like, whoa, overload, right? But on the drive back, he hit me with, just some real serious talk. And he's like, listen, man, like, I see a lot in you. And this was a guy I used to work with. And he actually used to set appointments for me when I was in the credit repair world. So rather than me cold calling, he was calling and setting my appointments for me. So he always just saw something in me that I never saw in myself. And he kind of hit me with that on the drive back to my apartment. And he gave me a challenge. He said, listen, you can go back to what you were doing at any time, right? That's an option for you. How's that working out for you? Right. That was the question that hit me hard. He said, I challenge you to go back, go to AA every day for the next 90 days and just try it. Yeah. Just try it. So I did. I actually went 90 days straight. I haven't been since, but I've been sober now for 4.5 years.
That's awesome. Man.
About 6 months after I got sober was when I dove headfirst into starting my team. At that point, I really didn't have any business starting a team. I was 1.5 years, 2 years into the industry at most. Me and my business partner at the time had a combined volume of maybe 12 to 15 million. Yeah. But then the next 3 years, we were able to grow that. Next thing we're 30 million, then we're 65 million, then 100 million in a couple of years. And I think just going through that rock bottom phase where I had no belief in myself, the whole mindset shift within me, where I do mind work every single day. I'm always journaling. I'm always writing. I see a mind performance coach every single week, and we do exercise. I'm going to him at 1 p.m. today, right? It's all about sustaining that positive mindset every single day, because we're in a tough industry. There are a lot of cards stacked against us. We're in a shifting market, right? We're doing something new. over here. I just left my team that I built over 4 years to over 100 million in volume to start from the ground up, right? So obviously there's a lot of conflicting stuff going on in my head, but put on your pants every day and let's go to work.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, obviously you got a lot of comments here. People appreciate your honesty. I think our industry, probably not unlike others, but I think because everyone in our industry is an entrepreneur, there's so much of a desire that we have to pretend like we have it all together. And I think when somebody shares a real story, like this is what I actually went through and here's how I'm tackling it, I think people relate to it and appreciate it. So thank you so much for sharing that.
For sure.
So starting from scratch, I mean, if somebody's like, you hit the reset button, so you've got a ton of experience, you've got a lot of intellectual property, you've got a lot of knowledge, you've got a lot of, past history of what worked and what didn't work. What are some of the steps you are taking that somebody else who's thinking of starting a team, like, where do you start? What's the first step you take?
I think you have to figure out your value add. What am I going to provide to these agents, right? There's a lot of places to go work. Every agent, there's one thing in common with every agent. They have to put their license somewhere. And there's no shortage of professional recruiters out there trying to get them on board with this program or that program, or we've got leads, or we've got this split, or, we've got this clout in the market. So you have to differentiate yourself and you really have a value add. And I think that was one of those things where I learned that the hard way with my first team. We thought having, a fresh brand that appealed to younger millennials, younger business professionals would be enough to sustain us. And we did well. We got some recognition, but we eventually had to mold into what we actually were as a team. So having that foundation and having your value add, people are coming to you, right? And this is kind of the mindset I take with anything I do. If I'm hosting an event, if somebody's going to come work for me, they're making the decision to be with me. Right. They're saying no to something else. And if they're saying no to something else and they're saying yes to being with me, how can I make that an out of this world experience for them? And that's something that I work on every day. So I kind of take this approach, for me, I think back when I was a first and second year agent and I heard all the sales pitches from all the different brokerages, and we have this training program, we have this mentorship. And usually what that amounted to was this mentor program means so-and-so is going to review my contract to make sure I didn't get myself into any trouble or the brokerage into any potential trouble. And as a thank you, I'm going to give you 30% of my deal. Right. So I think I think the traditional brokerage model has become a profit house for newer agents. They make a lot of money off of newer agents. They sell their coaching programs. They sell their trainings. They sell their, whatever. And you don't get that true, boots on the ground mentorship and coaching that is so prevalent. I mean, like you said earlier, it took me 10 days to get my real estate license in Nevada. It didn't take me much longer in the state of Colorado, but it never prepared me for what I would actually have to do once I got into the role of a real estate agent. So value add that we're really trying to push here is true mentorship, true business training. I think one thing that a lot of real estate agents fail to grasp is the fact that we're running our own business. We get so caught up in GCI and gross commissions that we fail to look holistically at our business as a whole. What's our profit and loss look like? Where's our expenses being paid? Are you really getting as much ROI out of this video campaign as you are simply by spending a couple extra bucks on your past clients once a year for a client party? Like, go in and track all of that, get those dynamics down and those metrics down so you can run the biggest, most profitable business you can.
And I think there's a lot of great stuff you said there. Unpacking some of it, entrepreneurship is something that is like littered in our business. People who put on the aura of success, people who borrow somebody else's car to take a picture with it to pretend like it's theirs. And it's not just an independent agent thing, it's a team thing as well. That is one of the hardest things for a team leader to grasp, is that you can build a team based on fake principles, but you can't sustain and grow it. Like, you can attract agents and then you'll see them leave when you don't have a value add to deliver to them. And I think never is that more prevalent than in today's economy, where production numbers are down. I think units of production in Vegas are down about 25%. So that means there are, 50,000 units a year sold in Vegas. Well, it's going to go to like 38,000. So now there's more agents than in the past fighting for less deals than in the past. And so being on a team that doesn't actually help you get a piece of those deals to help you feed your family, you could be the best recruiter in the world, but it's going to be a really short life cycle for agents on your team if you don't offer that value add. So talk a little bit about once you've determined your value add, and it sounds like what you guys are delivering is awesome. How then do you grow? Like, how do you find new agents to partner with and to bring onto your team?
So I don't recruit. I think people find us when they're ready to find us, right? I found Real, this new brokerage that we just moved to, right? When I was ready to. Like, I heard of similar models in the past, but I wasn't ready for that. And when my time was right and all the stars aligned, that's when I made my jump. So, I mean, we're just doing a lot of, I like to call it agent attraction. We attract agents because we do a lot of cool stuff. We do a lot of trainings. We host a lot of great classes with our business partners. Yeah. And we get a lot of people to show up. And when they show up, we provide an exceptional experience. There's energy, there's value. It's tangible stuff that you can go and apply to your business today. On top of that, we do a lot of killer events, and we just go have fun. We just do a lot of fun stuff and get people together. And I think people see that from the outside and they want to be a part of that culture. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lesson there. I think so many people are good recruiters that have to figure out culture and value add once they get people through the door. I think the key thing that people should take away from this is if you flip the funnel to where you have such a rad culture and environment and education program and mentorship and coaching, then as people come through the door, either through classes or a social event or basically these agent attraction guidelines, that once they get there, they will want to stay there because of what you built, as opposed to building such a great recruiting funnel that when they land there, they may say yes, but then quickly exit. So if you don't have the culture and principles in place, then you can recruit, but recruiting to a place where people aren't going to stick is a negative calorie exercise, a negative calorie digestion. So you've got to have something where people are attracted and want to stay once they get there. And I would argue the recruiting piece is the easier piece. The harder piece is actually offering something of such great value that when people are exposed to it, they're attracted to it. So it's almost like what you've done is so many people start with recruiting and then try to figure out the value add. You've started with the value add, and then you use attraction events and things like that to bring people through your door.
Well, and what it does too, Joe, is it allows our agents who are having that amazing experience. They all know people. They all know dozens of agents themselves. And when you're super happy somewhere, your people will do the recruiting for you. They're going to attract agents for you. They're going to, hey, so-and-so I did a deal with so-and-so at this other brokerage. And I was telling them about how we do this and that. And it's an easy layup. So I think if you have that culture down, and another thing is the operations and making life easy for an agent. And as you know, we get bombarded with this technology or this system or that system, so having that all set up and dialed in so they can just come in and literally from day one be plugged in, have all the resources they'll ever need, a training video on how to get it all done, an onboarding process so that they can start out successful on day one and worry about selling real estate versus, oh, I have to get business cards ordered. Oh, where do I get my signage? Where do I do this? Where do I do that? Right? So making that transition process as smooth as possible is super important.
So let's wrap it up with kind of the divorce of it all. Like, what do you do when an agent's not a good fit? So one question somebody who is looking at this is going to, for those of us who ran teams, we've gotten to the point to where, okay, we could bring people on. And then as the people that kill it and they're a good culture fit and whatever, obviously let's stay forever. But you always run into those agents where you're like, man, they're wasting their time. They're wasting my time. They're not productive no matter what. So what judgment stick do you use to determine whether or not somebody is a good fit for you? Because so often we're focused on us being a good fit for them. And when you determine they're not a good fit, how do you end the relationship with somebody that is wasting your time or their time?
Yeah, and I think brutal honesty is always the best way to go. You're also dealing with professional salespeople as well, right? So when somebody's interested in what you're selling or what you're offering, they're going to say all the right things in that moment. So you have to be hyper aware once you bring them on, if it is a bad fit, to take that feedback. Usually what we'll see is if somebody comes on and they're a bad culture fit, they'll complain about this, they'll complain about that. Then next thing you know, there's conversations going on in the background, and the well can get poisoned really quickly. So putting an end to it really quickly. And I think, the best way to answer that is to know what your core values are. What do we stand for? What's our standard of excellence? How do we operate? And making sure that those are non-negotiables. These are all the boxes we check. And if you're not checking those boxes, there's other brokerages out there that would probably love to have you, right? But if I know right away that somebody's a bad fit, I'll just tell them. There's no use wasting their time, no use wasting my time. Like, hey, I appreciate you coming in. I think at this point we're probably looking for somebody else, somebody who fits a different description of an agent. And I wish you luck, and maybe we'll cross paths another time.
Well, and I think the best piece of advice I can give around that is, when you have those conversations, hopefully you're doing it from a position of strength. Like if you get someone into your world that can produce, but they're bad for your culture, it's really, really hard, because you need the production to keep the finances in a good place. But then if they're killing your culture, it's like, I find that the more irons I have in the fire, like the less worried I am about the ability to feed my family, the better business decisions I can make. So I think it comes down as well to getting yourself in a position to where you have multiple streams of income. Yes, your team splits, and mentorship and coaching helps to provide for your family, but you have other ways in which you make money, so that you're not like, I don't make great decisions when I'm worried about paying my mortgage. I make really good decisions when I'm not worried about it. Then I can evaluate from a place of personal honesty, which is not, we need this agent's production, even though they're a bad culture fit. If I can get out of that mode, then I can truly evaluate it and say, are we a good fit for them? Are they a good fit for us? And make some solid decisions from there.
It's got to be mutually beneficial.
Right. We've got to be able to provide value to them, and they have to be able to provide value to us.
100%.
Awesome. Well, Shawn, how do people connect with you? What's your Instagram? What's your preferred method of contact?
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram at real_Nealon_Shawn. And hit me up there. Send me an email, Shawn@onelifecolorado.com. Would love to connect with any of you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Look forward to building with you in the future.
Yeah, appreciate you, Joe. Have a good day.
Thanks. See you, buddy.